Hi guys, I'm Adam and welcome back to my role-playing series where I set off to create a tabletop role-playing game while on camera. And yeah, let's start the episode. Last week we did a little bit tension mechanic and some drafting some ideas around companions, which was okay. But today there was an inspiration that just struck me. I recently saw in the old 3.5 D&D books, in the equipment section there, you have these pictures of all of these equipment that are just lined up, and so you could see this is a dagger, this is a short sword, and this is the a flail, and so on. It was really fun to watch. I really like those things. It's fun. And so I thought, yeah, let's do that this episode. I want to draw today, and today I'm going to draw equipment. That's basically a whole episode. It's just me drawing equipment. Have fun, I guess.
So, while we watch me draw some equipment, it's probably also a good idea to listen to me talk about equipment. I want equipment to be a major part of the game. And mostly I want it to be useful. I've played many role-playing games where you have all these abilities and you have spells and you have your basic kits like magic weapons and armor and so on, but not really utilizing equipment as much as I really like it. But then again, the problem with these sorts of systems is that if you're relying on equipment, you're also relying that you have all the equipment that you need then and there, which is probably a very hard challenge for me. So I was thinking about this because I can, as I'm now working on this, I can utilize this supply mechanic. I'll probably show you what I've been doing next episode or something. But the supply mechanic basically gives you the items that you need then and there just by spending supply. But that doesn't have much flavor in it, because what about the cool magic weapon or that special hammer that you picked up 2 sessions ago or something? And I'm trying to find a balance between having an inventory that is useful for you, but also that you have a supply mechanic so you don't have to load up your inventory with bits and bobs that don't really require your attention. So I'm working on that mechanic, but I'm not quite sure if it works as I want it to work. So I'll have to ponder a little bit about that. But with that said, I browsed through the RPG design Reddit a while back, and I came across some rules. that one of the users had posted, and I'll add a link in the description. Now, what was interesting about these rules was that they usually liked the user was usually liked to play OSR games, and in OSR games they usually like to limit the weapons and so on, so that they're not they're more standardized. And so they argued that they wanted to have more flavorful weapons, and did that by having first like a base damage. So any weapon you pick up will have a d8 damage, but you could also add traits upon the weapon so that you could make it a giant weapon, which would make it roll 2d8 instead, but also you would have some slowness to it so that you wouldn't attack as fast or something like that, or you needed 2 hands to operate. And also that, okay, you could have a ranged weapon, but then it would be decreased to a d6, and you could make it an entangling weapon, which would immobilize the enemy, but also then reduce the damage further. And so that it had like these different traits, I would say something around 20 different traits, and that you could choose 2 of them whenever you wanted to have a weapon. And that makes it so that, first of all, it's very easy to balance out each of the weapons, because you can just balance out 20 different traits and see if each of the traits are almost equally balanced. And of course, then if you have then the choice of 2 traits, that's almost 400 different traits, different weapon combinations that you could have. So it's very interesting to see this modularity within the game. And that started to make me think that maybe this wasn't a bad idea for my game either. Now, I haven't come to any weapons or armor yet, and how I'm going to solve that. But what I was thinking was that maybe if we had this, what should I call it? Let's call it traits. That you have these traits that you can apply to equipment to either make it more potent or less potent. And you might wonder, why would you make equipment less potent? And I would say that, well, if for instance you want to get some torches, but you don't want to spend that much supply, or that the risk of spending supply is less, then maybe you will go for some torches with some negative traits, like having lower light measurements, or that they only work half the time, or something that makes them of a more poor quality, but also therefore makes it so that you spend less supply on them. And of course, these are just ideas spinning around in my head, and so that's why I didn't actually do a whole episode on this, because it's still a very weird concept that I'm still working on in my head and trying to wrap my head around how to solve this. And so, yeah, then that would be a very interesting idea to add traits upon the different equipment, that players can get a standard ladder or a 10-foot pole, or a rope or something, but if they wanted a long rope or a 20-foot pole, or maybe they only needed a 5-foot pole, then you could just apply a trait to the equipment when you're doing your supply rolls, and the target value of that supply roll would be less. And yeah, so I'm working on that in the background. Still trying to figure out how these different things should go together, because I don't want to make it too complicated. But yeah, and this also gave me the same idea for the companions. Now this is probably even more experimental, but making companions able to have the same trait idea behind it, so that, well, I could have, say, 20 different traits that I could apply to different companions, and maybe, yeah, let's say another 20 different abilities on them. Then mixing and matching all of these, and maybe mixing in some personalities and so on, would make it so that the GM can create an NPC that suits them and suits their game and suits the needs of the different players, without having me needing to create a bunch of different NPCs that the GM has to read through and sort of figure out who is who and so on. So I think that might be a fun idea to work with. Yeah, I'm not sure how to solve this problem, but yeah, that I'll probably have another date. Yeah, so I'm working on that in the background here, and yeah, I'll probably get around to it maybe in the next episode or the episode after that. So I'm not quite sure what I want to do forward when it comes to this series. I'm still working around the concept of doing it game design through this way, but I think it's starting to maybe be time to start with another leg of the adventure. Maybe figuring out how the castle is designed and so on. One idea that I have is to just create a general castle design, and then from that try to figure out how the different dimensions would work, and sort of figure out how would a castle that can teleport things through different dimensions look like compared to a regular castle. But that's something that I'll have to do in another episode. And so, yeah, it looks like I'm starting to get finished here with all of these drawings. Now, it was very fun to draw. It's fun to do something relaxing and just take a break from everything and just draw a little bit. I mean, it's not very productive, but it's fun. So yeah, that's the end of the episode right here, and I hope you liked it. And if you did, please like, share, and subscribe, and share this with your GM. He'll probably like it. And yeah, see you around next episode.